Morning, Canadians. Well, I'm here to tell you that our country's being taken over by fascists. And why do I say that? Well, the fascists are in government. The fascists are in the health department with Canada. The fascists are all over, even within the left wing who call themselves anti-fascists, forcing their will and ideology on others. But even furthermore, today is a day where we're all going to remember, we have the ostriches that are being culled today, in which, me and my wife, we were researching all this stuff, and it's interesting that the courts put a provision so that the farm could not test the birds to make sure they were healthy, and I'm pretty sure the farm did anyways, but they would never get approved by the courts because the courts are full out want to kill these birds. The CFIA and the the public health of BC, they've murdered millions of animals, the highest murder rate, euthanasia rate in all of the country, just for BC. What's interesting is how the government and authorities did what they did this morning. Did the court order give the right to shut off the power so you can go in and cull the birds? That's a military strategy, right? Cut off the power and then go in, invade, take it over. Well, would it cut off the power, go in, cull the birds, use force if necessary? That's fascism, folks. Those birds weren't dying. I mean, I've been watching this since the beginning. Not, I think one bird died, but it died because somebody shot it. Canada is being overrun by this nonsense fascist regime, or communism, you want to call it, really. And I want people to just go study and go research yourself what China did in the 80s to their country and what Canada is doing to our country right now. We have 300,000 units that are going to be available in 6 months here in Canada for people to move in. Federal government has no intention of putting our homeless Canadians in those houses, but they're going to bring all the people from the Middle East to house them. That's what they did ever since Syria. Even under the Conservatives. The Conservatives were guilty of this. Not Pierre Poilievre, but Harper. Harper and Trudeau created the invasion of this country. Harper had a mandate to bring all the people in from war-torn countries so that the objective was that Canadian contractors could go and rebuild the country so we can bring them back. But that never happened. They've remained. And then we had the invasion of India, the invasion of the Middle East, right? Now, these people are human beings, I get it. But at the same time, it's their governments and their people who cause the wars. Terrorist groups, NGOs, outside influences. But that has to, Canada, out of all the countries in the world, has to be the bank of the world, has to be the sole place where everybody has to open floodgates. It's got to stop. Because what's mentally insane with this whole thing is the fact that our people are the ones suffering. Canadians are second-class citizens in our own country. We worked hard to get the minimum wage up. Now think about this, folks. The minimum wage is 15 to 17 bucks across the board. But yet newcomers and refugees and folks from other countries come into the country and get 36 bucks an hour to go work at Tim Hortons or KFC, while the rest of us have to keep working and slaving, and our taxes go to pay for them. Pay for them. Pay for them. Pay for them. I'm tired of paying for everybody else. I'm tired of paying for them. Our tax dollars should be put into our collective for Canadians who are born here, not for people who are just coming in. I never voted for that. Nobody voted for that. And the other thing that Canadians never voted for was a two-state solution to identify Palestine as a state. Canada harbors terrorists. Our country harbors terrorists. They pay off terrorists to kill people that killed people before, right? Omar Khadr. Sohi was in jail for 18 months. Mayor Sohi. How did he get out of it? How did Canada allow somebody who was in prison for 18 months for terrorism? He gets out and then becomes a federal MP and then a mayor of a city, right? Public minister is a Tamil Tiger, doesn't even have a pal, right? So it's safe to say that Canada is finished. It would be the right thing for all provinces to move ahead with separation and dissolve the federal government. And if that can't work, we need to compel the United States of America to help us. you know, or that, or Alberta becomes a 51st state if it gets to that point. Because you know what, Canada, for me, I loved my country. Believe me, I love the people and I love our land and I am patriotic, but I hate my government. Our government, not Canadian. How can they be Canadian when they're all foreigners? Most of them, right? Think about that for a second. That just basically dissolves and eradicates the Canadian collective, and having the ability for people who want to come, who have the ambition to be a Canadian, to conform to our collective. But no, they come to our country, they bring their foreign values here, their foreign religions, they build their mosques, their temples, everything. They take over our industries and they take over everything that we had. And nobody put a stop to that. Nobody. Now, last thing I want to mention is the injustice, where we had these Palestinian protests for the last 18 to 24 months ransack our streets with violence, targeting our Jewish communities with anti-Semitism and hate, racism towards white Canadians, apparently. That's racism, right? That is racism. The Soul Inclusive Club chasing our kids with rainbow drag queens and this and that. I mean, and throwing pornography in our schools. I mean, this is the ideology of a radical left-wing view. We've been invaded. Our policies of what made us Canadian before even our culture has been totally dismantled by these radicals. I don't recognize Palestine. Palestine was never a country. It was part of the Ottoman Empire. It was a little region of independent people. I don't agree with war. And I certainly don't agree with Canadians who support the idea that we send billions of dollars to other countries because what? Because we want to help? Maybe ask every Canadian for that. And those Canadians who vote yes, then they could be put on a list that they can have their taxes deducted to pay for it, because the rest of us don't want to. It should be our choice now. We never voted for this. And I'm certain that most liberals who did vote, I don't think you voted for any of this either. So wake up. Get your country back. Because now's the time. Our country, our government has been infiltrated by outside influence called the World Economic Forum and potentially the Communist Party of China. I mean, CSIS told us last year that every government in Parliament was compromised by the Chinese Communist Party, and they knew about it, but they refused to say anything about it. So where is the RCMP on that? That's treason, right? But what do I know? I'm Albertan. I'm no longer Canadian. I'll consider myself Albertan. To be Canadian these days is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to be Canadian when you have a government that is overthrowing your people to make its citizens a second-class citizen to be replaced with new citizens for a vote, because that's what it is. These people will vote for these clowns, and these clowns are so desperate to keep power, they don't care about their own people. Just food for thought.